In my second series of COVID-19, and we're doing these recordings while in level 3 of COVID. In other words, it's more relaxed than level 5 and even more relaxed than level 4. But certain things are changing, and I would like to deal with 4 or 5 of those issues. The first one is global trade. The first impact on global trade, of course, was when the virus emerged in China and the Chinese economy kind of went into lockdown. China represents 26% of global trade, so it's a huge impact. And that, of course, spilled over into the oil industry and caused a huge decline in the price of oil. And the rest, of course, is history. But apart from the lockdown of the Chinese economy, it spilled over into Europe, and it can be best demonstrated by the decline in the automotive industry. Nissan recently announced that they've got a huge debt problem for this year because they can't export motor vehicles. So there's a very good example of how it impacts globally on all the economies, not only the South African economy. The South African economy, of course, was especially vulnerable before COVID-19 because we were already in economic distress. So this added to our economic problems. But in this way, we're not alone. When we look at the economy, we must take a global view, and it is easy to lock down a society. It's easy to lock down a community. It's easy to lock down the economy, but it is far more difficult to open it up, and to open it up constructively like we are witnessing in South Africa. People anticipate the next levels and they start acting as if the next levels are there already. In the South African case, of course, the ban on cigarettes and the ban on liquor were extremely emotional. Some people would argue irrational, especially the ban on cigarettes. The medical motivation for lockdown in cigarettes isn't well developed, and I think government will eventually pay a political price on the cigarette issue. But what is also changing, of course, is our use of the fourth industrial revolution, the use of internet, selling of data, the use of our cell phones, the use of different digital technologies are going through the roof. Zoom is becoming a new word. In other words, we are now zooming all over the place, meaning we are talking to each other through the digital highway, and that is the new way of communication. I mentioned in an earlier program the term video conferencing, VC, as a new term. Then, of course, huge impact on agriculture. Before COVID-19, the term food security was kind of a technical term. Some people would even say a justification of not doing certain things. During COVID-19, we now know that food security is a real issue. If you don't have food, if you don't have money, like Nigeria, to buy food, because Nigeria's biggest export, of course, is oil, and we know the oil industry went through a huge problem, then you're in deep trouble. I think in South African case, agriculture made a huge impact on South Africa's ability to sustain COVID-19 through almost 2 months already. And we will, in all probability, be in this way of semi-lockdown, even going down to level 2 and level 1, and agriculture would have made a huge difference. So those issues are very important to look at while we're in the COVID-19 period.